Can you recall for our audience that may not know this dimension to you, and I kind of remember it from a snatches of a very old conversation about the time that you went to Gujarat to interview or to meet Mr. Modi when he was then Chief Minister of Gujarat, and I think it was an on-record interview. What do you remember about that encounter?
He was quite friendly, and I met him more than once. He held my hand and sort of swung it in the way that Gujarati men do, and he sort of giggled and called me a communist, I think. But he was warm, which he normally is. I went to him another time and I read out some poems by this man called Wali Muhammad Wali, who's great, the first poet of Urdu, who was buried in Ahmedabad, just outside the police commissioner's office. And on the 28th of February 2002, a mob broke down. They tore down the tomb and they sort of paved the road over. And I read those. I read a couple of those poems. You know, there's one called Dar Firaq Gujarat, which is on parting from Gujarat, where he expresses his love for the state, and another one is Tarif Sheher Surat, which is my town. And I said that this is the kind of man that we should respect, and we should try and uh, make sure that justice is done to him. And he said yes. And then while I was leaving, he said that, well, we're not really sure whether that was his tomb or not, so we won't do anything. So these are the sorts of things that I recall. Very high levels of certitude, very high levels of confidence. As we've seen, I think that part to him has not changed.
Mm. I noticed that on Twitter, your response to your case, unlike a lot of other activists, has been humorous, cheeky almost, some would say. You tagged the Home Minister in a tweet where you said Ima Bounce, which has many different connotations in today's mediascape. Uh, what makes you approach this with humor?
I suppose it's the kind of person I am. Life, we don't have to be serious all the time, and certainly I don't feel the need to be serious all the time. And it's fine. Life will throw some stuff at you, and there'll be good days and there'll be bad days. We may as well make the most of the good days.
So let me ask you in the end a serious question. There's a real sort of jousting going on who is the arbiter of human rights. And I raise this because we are at a very interesting intersection of conversation between the United States and India, where the United States actually talks about the human rights record of India, and the foreign minister turns around in a different context and says, we, that is Indians, are also very concerned about the human rights record of the United States of America. And I personally found the sort of restoration of that asymmetrical power balance quite interesting and quite compelling. And I have a feeling that a number of Indians, while very comfortable criticizing and debating at home, do not like to be lectured on human rights by the Americans or by anybody else. How do you see this very interesting kind of balance of power that seems to be shifting? India is pushing back. You may not agree on the basis of its pushback, but do you agree with the principle of its pushback?
No, I think India, as the most populous democracy in the world, we have the right and we should lecture other nations on their human rights record, especially the US. There is no reason for us not to. We are a signatory to the UDHR, to the ICCPR. We claim democratic values. We should make sure that whenever a nation violates human rights within its territory, we point it out. Equally, we should be open to other nations doing the same to us as well. The problem with this specific exchange is that it comes in a context that you will remember, and some of your viewers might also, that Mr. Modi was prevented for some years from visiting the US. That was because of sanctions that had been levied on him specifically through a body called the USCIRF, which is a bipartisan body which examines religious freedom across the world every year. For the last 2 years, 2020 and 2021, India has been put on the countries of a particular concern list. And the body has recommended sanctions against specific individuals in India. Neither the Trump administration, which was leaving in 2020, nor the first year in the Biden administration did the State Department take these up. But there is a danger that they might. And I think that if we think that we can combat this by saying things about the US, that's fine. We should. But we should be concerned about what the world is saying about what is going on in India. We've got laws targeting Muslims in a way that we've never had in our history. That you've got specifically an adult woman's testimony that she married of free volition is insufficient evidence for the Indian state in 7 states run by the BJP, where interfaith marriages between Hindus and Muslims have been banned. Marriages, including those with children, can be undone by the state. I don't think that in a democratic space, such laws have a place, and the world will notice that. The world has a good view of us. The world sees India as a well meaning but chaotic place. That's the view they've always had of us. The problem is that what has happened since 2014 and particularly since 2019 is that we have introduced a series of laws and policies that are menacing, and they bear the state's fangs at our own citizens. If
But
we believe that
I'm sorry, I'm jumping in there, but I just want to remind everybody the UAPA, now used in a lethal sort of way, is a gift of the Congress years. I just wanted to remind everybody of that.
Absolutely. I think that many of the laws that we are faced with, including the UAPA, including rights that are taken away from the Adivasis, are the gift of the Congress. There is no question. The issue is that there are religion-specific laws that India has introduced post 2019, that on the issue of citizenship, on the issue of marriage, specifically policies that stop Muslims from praying in spaces allocated to them by the state, stopping Muslims from wearing, women from wearing what they choose to wear in college. These are not things that the world will look away from. And we will not get away by saying that we were bad in the past as well and you didn't tell the Congress that they were bad. The world is concerned with what is happening in India in 2022. They don't really care about what went on here in 1965. And I think that it is incumbent on us to correct ourselves. If we believe we have the ability and are fully sovereign enough to tell the world to get lost, that's fine. If we don't have that ability, we should make sure that the world doesn't say these things, because it will. The only way to stop the world from meddling in our affairs in this issue is to make sure we don't pass these laws. The world will go away on this. They might still come on other things that are not linked to human rights. But I believe that the world will pay a closer look to India, because what is happening here is of concern.
Yeah, I mean, we need to have a longer conversation about, what the place or the rights of the world is. But I think certainly what you flag on interfaith marriages in particular is of deep and alarming concern, because it takes away the agency of women, which is something that matters to me personally enormously. Finally, on a slightly lighter note, because you have said that, one may as well laugh at life when it throws you a few lemons. If you were to meet the Prime Minister again, let's say in your home state of Gujarat, accidentally bump into him somewhere at a friend's house, at a shadi, what would you like to say to him, or what might you say to him?
I would go through some of the data and say that we need to correct what we are doing in two ways. One is on the side of the economy, and I think that what we've done to ourselves, and I don't think many people realize that in 2014, when Mr. Modi took over, India was roughly 50% in front of Bangladesh in per capita GDP, roughly $1,600 per capita for us, roughly $1,100 per capita for them. They've gone in front of us. We have to acknowledge that. This is government data. Nobody is denying it. Where have we gone wrong? We have to ask ourselves. We can only find solutions to problems that we acknowledge. If we don't talk about the problem, we'll never find a solution. That's one. The second is, what is the end state of the Hindu majoritarian ideology that we have adopted? Where is it? What 10 years from now, 15 years from now, what is the end state? We have excluded Muslims politically successfully. There is no Muslim chief minister in India. In 15 states in India, there is no Muslim minister at all. In 10 states in India, there is one Muslim minister normally who's given a minority affairs. Of the 303 Lok Sabha MPs that the BJP has, none is a Muslim. In the last Lok Sabha, 282 MPs, none was a Muslim. To what end? We have excluded them, fine. Why? What happens 10, 15 years from now, after we have expended all these laws and this energy on them, after we've done all the hijab, love jihad, beef, namaz, and all of that, what is the end state for this country?